Right, I just got back from South Africa where I got to photograph some of the world's most elite runners. So in this video, I'm going to break down the plan of action, the camera gear, why I chose certain lenses, how it all went down, and I'm going to share the whole process start to finish with you all. So let's get into it. But first, we should have a catch up. I can chat to you about what I've been working on recently and what's been going on. I like to share my task list with you. In the, was it the first or second episode I posted, people said they really enjoyed hearing just like the general tasks that I'm working on day to day. So what I'm going to do is share all of yesterday's tasks with you and go through kind of to give you an insight on some of the things I've been working on. It's been so this week I was meant to have 2 shoots. Both got postponed, which was fine because it's given me a week at home to, reset, kind of work on some social content that I've been posting. You guys have probably been seeing that. Get all the South Africa photos, so what I'm going to be talking about in this video, get all those out on socials. They went down really well, which is great. So it's been just a week to kind of get grounded and get back on my feet since coming back. But next week on Sunday, I fly to Amsterdam and I'm there for a couple of days with Young LA, and then I get back and then the day later I fly to Milan. I'm going to like a Nike event. Sports Shoes have sent me out there, so I'm going to capture some cool stuff. We're going on a train into the Alps. It's going to be pretty epic, and of course I'll be recording that as well. But let's get into the task list. So yesterday, to give you an idea of how my day looked, so my first task was finish a reel that I'd already started. The next task was make a new reel, and then I put Young LA ? So basically I had some footage from my DJI Nano. I took that from the Young LA shoot we did and I put some of the final shots in, and it's just BTS versus the shots reel basically. So I did that, booked my flights to Amsterdam. I booked my parking at Luton Airport. I then finished an exercise that I had to do for my coach. I then signed up for my new gym. I did the washer fluid for my car and Yaz's car. I then sent some edits for Viasat, the shoot I did in New York before Christmas, because they wanted some different ones to add to the collection. I then planned this YouTube video. I did my daily affirmations. I updated my network tracker. So for those that, that I've been mentoring, also it's available in the link in my bio on Instagram. I basically have this photographer's toolkit, and in that, as part of the thing you can buy, is a network tracker. Now, I think it's one of the most important things, right? Because when you think of your network, you just think, oh yeah, it's everyone that I follow on Instagram, right? But it's really hard to organize it and for it to feel organized, because you follow your friends, you follow your family, you follow your mates, and it can get really messy, right? So I think having a Google spreadsheet or an Excel spreadsheet with your entire network on. So think about everyone that's given you work over the last 3-4 years, all those names, when you last spoke to them, and all that kind of stuff is a really important tool. So I basically just went through my Instagram and people that I'd met and that I networked with in the last 2 months, and just updated that to my spreadsheet. So every month or two I'll try and do that just to make sure that that spreadsheet's updated. So I did that yesterday, and I also checked Millernote for my social ideas. So I use Millernote at the moment to plan all my Instagram content and reels. So I was going through that, checking what ideas I've got coming up for social content that I want to post in the next couple of weeks. So that's everything I did yesterday. So that gives you an idea of what my Thursday looks like. Sipping on my herbal tea, and let's get into the crux of this video, which is obviously the South Africa trip. Let's go. So let's talk about what the job actually was. So, Sports Shoes, who have been a client of mine for maybe 2, coming on 3 years now, done projects with them on and off over the years. Lovely people, shout out to the people at Sports Shoes, Gav, especially you. Reached out and they were like, there is a training camp in South Africa, would you be interested in going and shooting it? Absolutely. So for those that don't know, there's a track club called M11 based up in Manchester with lots and lots of talented runners. Some you might know, Keely Hodgkinson probably being the most well-known, Georgia Bell, etc. There's Olympians, multitude of different nationalities, all part of this training club. And throughout the year, they'll go out and train at a place called Potchefstroom, which is like 2 hours outside of Johannesburg. And that is basically because it's a perfect combination of heat. So it's about 33-ish degrees what it was when I was there, and you're at a slight bit of altitude. So the two together are a potent mix to give the athletes like a stimulus response that they need in order to improve their training. So I was asked to go out and document it. So obviously, absolutely would love to go out, and the goal was for Sports Shoes to have like an asset of photos that they could use on their socials, and then they could do collab posts with like M11 and the athletes as well. Really simple, kind of fly on the wall stuff. It's always so nice when a client comes to you and says like, we want you to almost like shoot it in your style, the way you like it, which is like that, you know, getting the details in a more editorial kind of way, the grittiness of it, close-ups, facial expressions, all that good stuff that I personally adore shooting, and I love it. So it's always a dream when a client comes to you and says like, look, we want it exactly how you shoot. In terms of like a creative brief, I was kind of just trusted to do my thing, which is brilliant. Now let's talk about my kind of day-to-day role on the trip, if you like. So basically, I was shooting over 3 days. So I'd been hired to shoot for 3 days. Now, obviously the athletes in the week have their training sessions planned throughout the week. So I was there for 3 days. So on the first day, I think we did a morning running session, and I was basically with the coaches in the car shooting out the back window of the car, which was great and really handy, obviously, when you're photographing runners. I think they just did like a 5K, 10K-ish distance, whatever it was, like an easy run. Then in the afternoon, they were in the gym. So I shot them in the gym. The next day was a morning session on the grass track, and then a med ball session, which was like conditioning, in the afternoon. And then the final day on the Saturday was hill sprints. There was no afternoon session. So basically I was shooting in the morning. I would then edit between the next session, get to the next session, shoot that, edit in the evening, and that was the kind of process for the first 2 days. And then the morning session was all I had to do on the Saturday, so I was then editing in the afternoon. Now, as you can imagine, taking a lot of photographs over this 3-day period, when you're photographing probably 15-ish athletes in the group, and I was just so in my element. There are so many photographs happening and opportunities throughout you. Imagine 15 elite athletes training around you. There's just so many opportunities for images. So I took so many photographs. And I'll get more into that and the deliverables and all that kind of stuff, but it was pretty epic to, you know, just do that. But it meant that there was a lot of selects to go through. Each session you're taking, you know, 1,000 to 2,000 images, then having to go through those and sifting through them and making selects is almost, you know, one of the longer parts as well, and really deciding on what is going to make the final images. And I really struggle to narrow those images down. I might end up with, from the morning running session, I think on one day, 150 selects that I wanted to edit, and I didn't want to narrow that down any further because there are athletes that, and I want them to have those pictures because they might want them for their socials. They might not be, you know, career-breaking photos for me that would sit on my page in my portfolio, but they're good enough that the athlete would want them for their socials, you know? So it's weighing up that as well, and I'm kind of processing that when I'm trying to make selects too. So that was like a long part of the process, but I tried to stay on top of it. I didn't want to shoot the full 3 days and then after be like, right, now I've got to edit everything. And Sports Shoes were posting whilst I was out there, so they needed images, and that meant faster turnaround times. So once the session was done, straight home, sit in the apartment. I'll put a little picture of the apartment I had up now, or video. Really nice place to kind of sit and work. I was so lucky that they sorted me out with that. And it meant I had a nice desk. So when I got back from a session, I could sit, go through edits, make selects, start editing, and then same again in the afternoon. And by the end of the day or the following morning, the client will have all of the morning sessions edits already done and sent over to them. So I was just transferring them over to Gav at Sports Shoes, and then he was deciding which images that they would use and for their socials, etc. So I didn't leave it to the end. I was kind of working as I was going, editing, selecting, and just constantly, I wanted to get it done. And also after the Saturday, I was then flying to Cape Town for a couple of nights just to do some sightseeing. I was like, I don't want to travel, 12 hours to South Africa on a plane and only be there for 3 days and then come all the way back again. So I wanted to see Cape Town for a couple of days, and obviously I wanted that time to be free so that I could relax and enjoy myself. So I wanted to get the chunk of work done before I got to that point, basically. So on the night I landed, I basically put together a quick mood board on Pinterest and the kind of style and images I wanted to create, and I'll share that on screen now. That was just to kind of give myself a bit of an idea of what I wanted to create. Gav had shared some reference images of me with me before. Basically, I did another trip out to Sestriere in Italy with a couple of the elite marathon runners, and I documented them there, and he wanted me to shoot in a similar style. So he sent me over some shots I'd already taken before. I put this other mood board together because I wanted something that I could just use for inspiration to try and think outside the box and push myself. So I put that together, but other than that, I didn't do too much prep in terms of putting a big brief or like a big shot list together. I just was confident that I could turn up on the day and just shoot anything I saw and kind of try and get myself into a bit of a flow state, completely dialed in, looking for compositions, looking for people in pain, looking for photo opportunities, and that's kind of how I did it. Obviously, so I'd never worked with any of these athletes before other than Georgia Bell, who I'd shot at like a running event like last year or the year before. So I kind of knew Georgia, but I didn't really know anyone. And when you come into a training camp that's a really tight-knit group of people, it's important that you quickly kind of build trust and try and get on with people so that, they let you in and they relax around you. Obviously, that's something that's built up over time, but I only had a 3-day window. So I tried my best to kind of stay out the way of people, shoot from a distance, and they knew I was there, and they obviously get photographed a lot, so it's okay, but it's still something to think about. So tried not to be too invasive at all, and as the days went on, I could get more and more invasive. So a really good example is Cass, who's one of the athletes. So I think I sat down with him and Ethan for lunch one day, and another one of the lads, and basically had lunch with them, got on with them really well, nice lads, similar age to me, a little bit younger, but we all got on really well. And that lunch was crucial in a way because got on with Cass and Ethan, we were throwing an American football around, I think the day after or on that day as well, started to build a rapport with them. And then on the last day during hill sprints, so Cass was in a bit of a hole and basically was throwing up and all that kind of stuff. Because I'd built that rapport with him over lunch and just in general chit chat, he was absolutely okay with me shoving a camera in his face whilst he's throwing up, whilst he's in pain, and he was absolutely okay with it because over that lunch conversation I'd explained what I was trying to capture. He appreciated it, he really liked my work, he then saw my Instagram and all that kind of stuff, and we'd had that conversation. So that allowed me on that final day to get probably a lot closer and amongst the action as I probably would have done if I hadn't had that conversation, if that makes sense. So I think building that rapport, people being relaxed around you, letting you in, can really be the difference between, a good shot and a great shot, and photographing things that you normally wouldn't be able to photograph. So, as we all know, we've probably all been sick before. When you're throwing up on the side of the road or your head's in a toilet, you don't particularly want someone taking a photo of it. But because I'd built that rapport with Cass, he was okay with it. And that's the kind of shot I want, because that really depicts how rough those sessions are. And that's my job, right? I want to show, you guys back home and the people that love sport, or don't even love sport, that are just interested, the kind of stuff that these guys go through. And I want to showcase the training and the sport in a unique way that doesn't really get seen. So I want the gory details, I want the pain on the face, I want the unique angles and the compositions. So things like that can go a long way and make a real difference. Now let's talk about kit. So this was literally, for every photograph you've seen, this was my 2 camera setup. So I literally had my Sony a7R5, and I had the 70-200 on it. This is the Mark II 2.8 G Master. Love this lens. So this is essentially me shooting everything from a distance, getting close-ups of people if they're far away, so I can be a bit more fly on the wall and less evasive. So I had this in one hand, I was shooting, and then on my wrist, and you'll see in the footage I've been playing over this video or over the videos where I've been talking, I had this on my arm the whole time. So I would shoot like this, as you'll see from the video, and as soon as I saw something that, you know, was a wider shot or I wanted to capture more of the landscape and the detail, I would just pick this up, turn my Ricoh on, and I would shoot with this, and then let this drop back down, switch back to my Sony. So this is my wide and this is my tight lens basically. And I just had these two on me the whole time. Everything is shot on this. I never changed the lens on this, and I use this for all my wide shots. Now, you might be asking why. Well, I have another Sony body, but it's nowhere near as good as the R5. And I haven't bought a second one with like a 12 to 24 mil on, or a 16 to 35 mil maybe would be great combo to have with this. I bought this as a pocket camera, and I did a boxing shoot and I had this same setup and I was like, damn, this is brilliant. I love this. So I was like, for this trip, it's easy, it's light, I can literally switch between the two, flick it up, take photos, and the stuff this thing produces, guys, is so good. Honestly, I am obsessed with this camera. I paid £800 for it, and in the Instagram where I posted the final sets of images, 50% of those were taken on this, 50% of those were taken on this, and I think you would struggle to figure out which is which. Obviously, the autofocus on this is nowhere near as good, and the resolution is nowhere near as good, but it packs a punch, and it's a really impressive piece of kit. So that was how I was shooting, and when, like I said, the athletes kind of warmed to me and I could get a bit close to them and they didn't mind me being in their personal space, this is when I would pop this open and get really close stuff, top down angle, low angle, get in their face, but then you can also get those detailed face shots with this lens as well from a distance. So this was my setup, and after I'd shot, when I was putting the stuff into capture, I would have a folder for my Sony shots and a folder for my Ricoh shots, just so I know which were which, and it's also handy when I'm making reels and I want to showcase stuff that's shot on my Ricoh. So that was my gear setup. I had obviously 2 memory cards in there, 1 in here, and at the end of every time I'd done a session, I would then copy these into my internal SSD and onto a hard drive so that I always had a backup on a spare SSD from the trip as well. In terms of challenges on the trips and probably things that I would change and do differently next time round, I would probably buy myself some bigger memory cards. So in this I've got a 256 gig memory card and I've got a 128 gig memory card. So the Sony Tough cards are the ones I use. I would probably, in an ideal world, in my camera have either 256 gigas, so you've got about 500 gig, or have 2 500 gig cards, so that you can just shoot like multiple days onto one card. Obviously also having backed up onto your internal SSD and SSDs. I hate formatting cards, even though I know that I've got them on my internal SSD or elsewhere, it just freaks me the fuck out. So I'd probably get some bigger SD cards. I also would, and I need to buy for this Milan trip, I want to get a spare battery for the Ricoh because it does drain pretty quickly, and in the heat as well, it was probably struggling. But I would still do it again. Maybe I am looking to buy another Sony body that is great and also get a 16 to 35mm lens on it. So maybe I would take 2 Sony bodies just to have the higher resolution. Give that a go, compare it to this and see what the difference is. But obviously then you're looking at a 10 grand setup versus like, this is what, a 4-5 grand setup really. These are going, the Sony A7R5s at the moment going for like 2.2k. In good condition, you can get this for about 1,800 quid. This was £800. So, you know, obviously a difference in price, but I'd be intrigued to see what kind of results I could create with another Sony A7R5 with a wider lens on it as well. But other than that, there's not much I'd change. Obviously, the longer you're there and the longer you're with the group, the more incredible photo opportunities you're gonna get. So I'd love to be there. I think a week's a good time. So the more sessions you can get in, the better. But honestly, I just have so many files that it'd be a bit mind-blowing, to be honest. So let's talk about deliverables. So Each session, like I kind of said earlier, I was delivering, I think over this whole trip, I probably delivered 600 final edits, thereabouts, which to some people is like, whoa, that's a lot. You're kind of shooting in an event and there's so much happening with so many people, so the deliverables are always going to be higher. So in that way, it kind of makes sense. You know, on like a campaign or a commercial campaign, you might only deliver 15 to 30 final edits for a whole day shoot. But with this, I'm wanting to please the client, I'm wanting to please athletes, I want athletes to have photos that they want to be able to post as well. And then you're also getting stuff for yourself. So, you know, say there was 600 final edits, you'll see on my Instagram, I think I posted like 30 to 40 final images. So once everyone got everything and I got home, I could then sit down and really decide and curate the final images that I wanted to go out, and I'll share them on the screen now. But those final images to me are the ones that speak to me the most, that are most my style. I could play around a little more with the grade and tweak stuff and add some texture and all that kind of stuff. But just really happy with the shots I got in general. Athlete documentation is something I want to do more of in 2026, without a shadow of a doubt. I absolutely loved it, and I think that it kind of lit like a new fire in me, and it was a really good way to start the year. So guys, I hope you liked this video. I hope you found it informative and was some good insight for you. Maybe you learned something, maybe you didn't, but let me know what you want to see more of down the line. I'm planning to do this for a lot of the trips that I do this year, so if you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers. I think I'm at like 72, which is great. So let's try and hit 100 by the end of, well, I say the end of Jan, that's tomorrow. By the end of Feb. And I'll see you in the next video. Also, guys, do you like my new lights that I got for my office? Just more of a vibe, isn't it? I'll see you in the next one.